Believe it or not, the secret to all this is actually imperfection.
Imperfection?
Yeah. Things like wrinkles, less than perfect teeth, details like fading scars, little pop marks. Look at my nose. See my nose? It's bulbous and slightly irregular.
It is.
Well, I'm the only one who's got my nose, and that's what makes me me. And we need to incorporate these features into your design so that you can be the only one of you. That's what makes us unique, is those imperfections.
I see, like the shape of your head.
What about the shape of my head?
It's huge.
Huh.
But lovely.
Thank you.
What does it mean to be human? Philosophers have been plucking cocks for centuries trying to answer that question. And however you might define humanity, we always seem to lose sight of it, whatever it is. We're so sure in our monopoly of the human experience, we take it for granted. Until something, ironically a man-made something, comes along to contest it. Then we fight most viciously to reclaim it. Each fight harder than the last as we venture further away from home territory. Our values change. In the 1800s, Matthew Arnold wrote that the English were too prone to worship machinery, as in they value a process without really thinking about the results. He also said the English had a tendency to value an idea to the point where they wouldn't question or explore around the idea. G.K. Chesterton made the same points in 1909 in an essay about Indian nationalism where he states, "The test of democracy is not whether the people vote, but whether the people rule." This column inspired an Indian journalist who happened to be visiting London at the time. He translated the article and urged his fellow countrymen to think about their values as an Indian people fighting for an Indian nation. He made history. Odds are you know this man. Maybe you've even been nuked by this man. His name was Gandhi. Now I urge you to do the same. Consider the point. AI is a human problem. Before AI even got here, we had problems with the way we communicate. We have problems with our goals and our expectations. Through years of cutting corners and sanding and polishing the human experience, we've ended up with an experience that is admittedly shinier than anything my ancestors ever had to deal with. Diarrhea isn't a death sentence in this day and age, but it's also less human. Diarrhea was what made us more human? I don't know. It definitely makes me more religious sometimes. The point is, if we want to solve the AI problem, we have to solve the human problem. We need to figure out our values, not the lofty ones, the basic ones. And for that, we need to play around with the idea of humanity. Before we get going, though, I need a little... yeah. Love that new book smell. This is my Outer Wilds Design Works book, over 200 pages saturated with glorious behind-the-scenes details of one of my favorite games of all time. I bought this one with my own money. That's what convinced me to sponsor up with Lost and Cult. And I got a new one for you. In partnership with Geometric Interactive and Annapurna Interactive, the Cocoon Design Works goes 200 pages deep into the biomechanical nested worlds of 2023's best debut indie game. I'm talking about an extensive behind-the-scenes look, analysis, and never-before-seen artwork and interviews. And of course, there's a limited deluxe edition you can pre-order until December 16th. Cocooned inside a DeBoss half clamshell presentation box, you'll find bookmarks, art prints, and sticker sheets inspired by the game's ancestors and alien architecture. Don't forget to use my code FrostCocoon at bit.ly/FrostLIC for 5% off. Link in the description. And I hear you. What if you're already Cocoon maxed out? Well, I've got great news for you. My code works on the entire rest of the store. That's 5% off everything on this site. How's about an Amnesia Design Works? How about Jacob Geller's annotated essays? Really, gamers, I need you to buy the whole store. Because what they don't have is something related to Papers, Please or Return of the Obra Dinn. I need a Design Works with Lucas Pope. I need you to make that happen for me. Thank you for the support. And thank you, Lost and Cult. I'm a human, and I'm a mess. Did I ever tell you I struggle with motive? Not motivation, I have plenty of that in storage. I don't like drive, I lack reason to drive. But you give me a why I can get behind and you'll have my sword, bow, and axe. Until then, I'm a simple, cozy hobbit of a man in build and temperance. I genuinely think I could resist the One True Ring's temptations the way Samwise did in the books. The ring showed him power, made the realm his garden, and he said, "Nah, I'm good." That sounds like a lot of work, and fake. And like Sam, I do pitch in to help if there's a problem within the community, gaming or otherwise, because I am fond of some of my neighbors and I live here too. Currently, that perceived problem is AI. It's a messy subject that cannot be dealt with the oft-tried and rarely true method of nagging until I get my way. I've said this time and time again. I have affection for gaming and its hobbyists, We just ain't too good at them words sometimes. It makes things harder than it needs to be, and we have 2 Gamergates under our belt to prove it. I don't want 3. That's my motive today. I am not gonna sit here and let Skynet take over the world just because we as a collective have the social skills of Bobby Boucher's mama.
Because school is
The devil? Everything is the devil to you, mama!
G.K. Chesterton and Adam Sandler in the same video. You laugh, but The Waterboy is a classic parable of a smothering mother. It's Ed Gein with a happy ending. Both feature strong-willed individuals imposing their dead-set beliefs on an impressionable mind that's just trying to figure out its place in the world. I believe Helen Boucher loves her son, but I don't feel he matters to her, or at least her own whims and desires matter more than his. Ed Gein's mom is the opposite. I don't feel that she loves her son, mostly because she says it to his face a lot. But I can feel she believes he matters in a cold German old Lutheran who am I to question the will of God kind of way. Either way, the end results are the same. A conflicted psyche seeing its mother in places she shouldn't be. Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug. Not every mother can be Mrs. Gump. By her actions and her words, I know she loves Forrest. I know she believes he matters because she gives him the tools to operate on his own as a fully realized individual.
Mom always had a way of explaining things so I could understand them.
She teaches him people are people and that sometimes we all do things that, well, just don't make no sense. She puts the pussy on the line for her son's education. Verily, I say to you, all 3 mothers would be gifted world's best mom mugs by their respective sons. But Mrs. Gump is the only one who could drink from it and have it be true. Unfortunately, in life, you are more likely to come across people whose actions or words are closer to a Helen Boucher or an Augusta Gein. Remember, Augusta Gein was real. And I hate to say it, but looking back at a lot of my writing, I think I am a Mrs. Gein. You could probably tell that I think gaming matters, but I don't blame anyone for thinking that I don't love it, be it as an art form or in general, even though I believe I do. If you watched my Silksong video and had to guess how much I enjoyed the game, you probably wouldn't think I did at all. It's a process. I have to continuously work on how I express myself, otherwise I will unintentionally start a wave of German old Lutheran gaming, whatever that might look like. No more loot boxes, but also no franchises allowed to go past the number 4. Inversely, I find a lot of my writing peers in the gaming industry have the opposite problem I do. They can't stop getting it up. It refers to their blood pressure, their passions, their emotions. I don't know anything about gamer erections, Your Honor. But if I had to wager a guess, probably not. Working in game journalism kills libido, at least from my short experience. Boners aside, a critique I've held of game media criticism, in general, is that I can tell you love video games, but I can't tell that it matters to you. Let's have a recent divisive example here. Eurogamer published Rick Lane's review of Ark Raiders, in which he gave the game 2 out of 5 stars. It was a lovely write-up. He praised the game for most of the review and ultimately said the limited use of AI voices was a black mark on the whole project. There were polarized stances, and I did what any enlightened dark alt woke centrist would. I said, I wish they would continue to elaborate. It's what any writer wants to hear. Write more, please. Write more about the experience and your feelings, because as it stands, I felt the review part was incomplete because of Rick Lane's distaste for AI, and I don't know enough about his concerns because he spent most of the review praising the game to then suddenly taking off his belt and whooping its ass while saying, this hurts me more than it hurts you. What did I just walk into? Paul Tassi at Forbes wrote about the review as well, quoting his summary. Eurogamer certainly has the right to do whatever they want, score a game however they want, and no one should take into account raising or lowering a Metacritic score when reviewing a game. But to me, this seems similar to something like a game critic flipping a review of a good game from positive to negative because the studio used crunch to finish it behind the scenes. Is that a real issue? Yeah. Will writing a review dictated by that be useful or good or helpful to the cause you're trying to support? I would argue no, not particularly. And it sure doesn't help the same writer gave The Concorde a 3 out of 5 either. That's my impression of Paul doing his impression of Jack Nicholson. I can tell Rick Lane loves what he's talking about. I can't tell that he thinks it matters because he's made it harder for the matter. Let's imagine a new restaurant opens up and you're curious to see what food reviewers think about it. You see my article, and I say, the food's great, the atmosphere's good, but I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars because my whore of an ex-wife works there and restaurants shouldn't employ cheaters. Also, the dirty harlot doesn't recycle. I'm not going to get through to people because the consumer has never met my hypothetical ex-whore wife. She never hypothetically cheated on them. And how a cook's fidelity in a marriage might impact the taste of the burger they're eating is yet to be seen. And then fewer people will listen to me, because two of the biggest sins a reviewer can commit is being unrelatable and unreliable. To Eurogamer's credit, they did also publish a review in April that gave Fatal Fury City of Wolves 4 out of 5 stars and cited their ties to Saudi Arabia as an ink stain that's hard to ignore. But now the Call of Duty review for Black Ops 7's out, and there's no mention of AI anywhere in the review or reflected in the score, even though the game was made with AI. Even more AI than the last one, and that review also didn't take a stance on AI. These are 4 different opinions from 4 different writers, but all published by the same site, now polarizing its audience. On one end, the people who mainly want to hear about the quality of a game aren't going to be pleased they have to filter through what they deem irrelevant content. And on the other end, the people who do want to see Eurogamer integrate moral and ethical stances directly into reviews will never be satisfied, because you can only be as moral and ethical as you know. I saw a few anti-AI folks say just use Fiverr to hire humans instead if you're going to be so cheap, not knowing that Fiverr is also seen as unethical within the voiceover industry because these people aren't in the voice acting union, and they're working for rates below the set norm. They're seen as scabs, and you can be blacklisted behind the scenes if certain casting directors find out. It's my opinion that the review could have done more, or another article would have been nice. There was no mention of the process Embark Studios uses for voice lines. For the finals, they paid voice actors and got their permission to mishmash their audio into a text-to-speech sort of system. This gets around one of the biggest problems people have with AI in that it steals people's work. These actors were paid and consented. Rick Lane says it's important to emphasize the nuances of play here, and then doesn't. Icon, truly. We're in the weeds again. Not that games media's ever really left the weeds. It was 11 years ago, Total Biscuit described how games media has more power than the average consumer. So then consumers form groups in order to be heard. But those groups get co-opted by a vocal minority of extremists pushing agendas. That is still true today. The community has a hard time talking about real issues because they don't want to get lumped in with a crowd they oppose, or they don't want to be seen as giving points to the opposition, or because it's more fun to play video games than squabble. We need to grab a message quickly, something that'll actually stick and act as a catalyst for conversation. Something reliable, something relatable. And like Total Biscuit, I find pro-consumerism is often that stance. People like buying things, they don't like wasting their money. Now, for some people, a product that hurts the environment or uses AI is a waste of money. But the reality is that most people are simply concerned with the quality of the final product. Yes, we exist in the context of all in which we live and what came before us. We don't just fall out of a coconut tree. But consider, when was the last time the average person butchered a cow? When was the last time the average person put up sheetrock? When was the last time the average person stole a painting or burned down thousands of trees in the Amazon? Am I the only one with my hand raised here? We have taken the context out of life. Life feels like coconuts are just falling from the tree, the entertainment industry especially. You can't yell at someone for picking up a coconut that's attached to art theft and deforestation because they don't have that context. And if you come at them sideways, their opinions will form in opposition of you because you made them feel bad or they saw that it makes you lose your cool. Yes, this does sound like tone policing. We're not on the debate team. Yes, I agree that the message should be more important than how we feel about it, but that's just not effective in reality. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be effective? So here's my angle. I personally don't want anything to do with a product where the seller can't account for what they're selling. If a developer gets sued because of stolen art that they didn't know was in the game, then I could lose my money, and I could lose my purchase. That applies to human work and generative AI that scrubs the internet and spits out collages. They're not stolen, they just haven't been paid for. I hear that one a lot in shady alleys. Pro-consumerism is my line in the sand. It's relatable, it's reliable, it's the line I draw and will not cross because I feel it matters to me. But again, it's not enough for it to just matter. I gotta love something too. I gotta be pro-human. You have to make a case for the human experience these days. You can't just rely on the idea that something's virtuous simply because it's human. Some of the most haunting atrocities I've ever been exposed to are because of humans. Remember, one of us was responsible for the McRib, and morale's been in the gutter ever since. By chance, have you been watching that new Vince Gilligan show, Pluribus? The guy who made Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul's flipped the script here. Ray Seahorn is one of few people in the world immune to an alien hive mind virus that just wants to see her happy and compliant while they work on figuring out how to infect her too. And in one episode, she meets up with the remaining uninfected, but has a hard time convincing them that it's worth reverting things to normal, because she is, frankly, unpleasant as a person. And you hate to hand it to them, but the hive mind is taking better care of the planet. There's no more crime, they don't kill animals for food, and they make better use of daytime to conserve energy, so no more awful daylight savings time. Meanwhile, the now champion for humanity thought everyone was a mindless drone and everything was a decadent waste of time well before everyone became a literal mindless drone, and she is now the one wasting resources. The show's not done yet, but as a curmudgeon myself, I'm curious to see her motive beyond basic survival instincts. She is figuratively me. It was made before the rise of AI, but Pluribus positions itself at both ends of the spectrum. The worst thing that could happen is humanity's destruction, and the best thing that could happen is humanity's destruction. You took it for granted like an old toy, and you only want it back now that someone else wants to play with it. And now, a bit of a misanthrope has to make a case for it. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your rears. That's right, I said your rears, so I can spank the lot of you. And then someone do me. Humanity's been very naughty. Our values shifted. We value output over process, final say over dialogue, test scores over critical thinking, what people have accomplished over who they are. The people we celebrate are placed on the top shelf, far out of our reach, and we hide away the things that make us most human. Our curiosity, our mistakes, our interpretations of those mistakes, the questions we ask, our perspective, our reliance on each other, our creativity. Society became less human, and now here's the thing that's advertised as picking up the slack, and we're surprised humans are giving into it. We have some making up to do. Now is the time to create. I'm not a traditional writer by any means, but I believe the pen is mightier than the sword. But only if you can write like a man who brought a pen to a sword fight, at an inherent disadvantage with your life on the line. Not every matter's so grave, but once in a while, create something like your life depends on it. I'm not asking for your best work with all the polish and imperfection smoothed out. I'm asking for your better work. The one that's better than where you are now, but not quite good enough as where you'd like to be. Think about the means as well as the ends. Make a point and play around with it. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be sloppy. Don't be afraid to be human. I'll leave you with this. Just the other day, I saw a post of a drawing gone awry. An artist stumped by an angle most sinister. It told a story. Not of failure, but of perseverance. I would have scrapped it, tossed it, chopped off my fingers, and resigned from the hobby midway. But them, they kept going. Even as the eyes and chin fought for dominance, I can practically hear them chanting the artist's mantra, "Trust the process. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Trust the process." And in the end, it wasn't enough, resulting in this endearing, double-jointed face. Honestly, at my skill level, I'd be happy enough to have gotten this far. They took to Reddit to relate their misadventure, and this made its way to Twitter, where it set off a glorious trend. Other artists gave it a go. They provided tips and remarked on the tricky angle. More artists jumped in. My Twitter feed was inundated with freerans as far as the eye could see in every style and flavor. The English voice actor made Patient Zero their profile picture. It was a wonderful moment. Not because the drawings were perfect. Not because the drawings were human-made, even. I wouldn't doubt if an AI image or two picked up steam, but even they were playing around with the subject. The celebration of failure, perseverance, triumph, community. How human.